Last but not least, we got a bit of a Miami segment here. We're gonna do a little. We're gonna do a little Miami themed piece of content here to close out the stream this week. We're gonna talk about Tua Tagovailoa and an interview that he recently did where he talked about how Brian Flores was doing him dirty while Brian Flores was the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. So shouts out to Dan Lebitard. I got love for Dan Lebitard. I'm a fan of Dan Lebitard. Tua was on Dan Lebitard's show, and Dan Lebitard asked Tua about the experience playing for the Dolphins under Brian Flores, and Tua basically talked about how it's been a night and day experience between what he dealt with playing for Brian Flores and what he now experiences playing for the current head coach Mike McDaniel. So I think the first thing that we'll do is play what Tua said, and then we will play Brian Flores' response to that. So here is what Tua said when Lebitard asked him about playing for Brian Flores and what that was like.
Can you explain to us the difference in practical terms between having a coach who did believe in you the way that he did and the difference between that and what was happening with Flores?
Yeah. Well, to put it in simplest terms, if you woke up every morning and I told you you sucked at what you did, that you don't belong doing what you do, that you shouldn't be here, that this guy should be here, that you haven't earned this right, and then you have somebody else come in and tell you, dude, you are the best fit for this. Like, you are accurate, you are the best whatever, you are this, you are that. Like, how would it make you feel listening to one or the other? You see what I'm saying? And then you hear it, regardless of what it is, the good or the bad, and you hear it more and more, you start to actually believe that. I don't care who you are. You could be the president of the United States. You have a terrible person that's telling you things that you don't want to hear, or that you probably shouldn't be hearing. You're going to start to believe that about yourself. And so that's sort of like what ended up happening. And it was, I mean, it's basically been 2 years of training that out of not just me, but a couple of the guys as well that have been here since my rookie year all the way till now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so in response to that, Brian Flores was asked about it recently during training camp. He is now the defensive coordinator for the Vikings, the Minnesota Vikings. And he was asked about this. And so we'll get into what he had to say in response. So this says Brian Flores maturely owned Tua Tagovailoa's harsh criticism of his Dolphins teams after quarterback ripped coach. Give Brian Flores some credit. He's not backtracking or denying anything in the wake of Tua's harsh criticism of the former Miami Dolphins head coach. During a Tuesday press conference, the now Minnesota Vikings defensive coordinator stood at the podium and faced the music. He admitted that hearing Tua blast him in public in such a strong fashion struck a chord that put him into a mindset of self-reflection about where he had gone wrong as a coach. Flores maintained that he already previously understood that he didn't have the best approach with the young quarterback and has been trying to grow from that ever since. So here's what Flores said. All right, so let's go ahead and blow this up.
Is it taken? There you go.
These two, the Twitter stuff be slower than the rest of them, bro. I don't know what's going on.
No.
All right, so here's what Flores said when asked about this.
Specific to the comments that were made by Tua, I just want to say, look, I'm happy, genuinely happy, genuinely happy for the success that Tua's had, and I really wish him nothing but the best. And I think player relationships are very important to me. I think that's kind of the foundation of coaching. And I got into coaching because I was impacted as a young guy by my high school coaches, my college coaches, by going all the way to Pop Warner. I got into coaching because I want to make that same kind of impact, positive impact, pour into young people, help them become, as KO says all the time, the best versions of themselves. And that's really my goal always in coaching. So I wish nothing but the best to Tua. Really more than anything, I'm just focused on the Vikings, the 2024 Vikings, the players we have. We saw a couple of guys up here, just a couple minutes ago, Metellus and HP. I think, their leadership, their friendship is important to me, and I'm just I'm excited about this group.
All right, so Mr. Flores took the high road there. Shouts out to Dan Levitard, man. Dan Levitard, I got a lot of respect for him. I like the way he does his job. And hopefully their platform hasn't gone the Joe Budden DJ Academics route where they flag you for copyright because you use clips of their clips from their stuff. But we'll find out. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But what did you make of Flores' response to what Tua had to say about Tua's time playing under Brian Flores?
Well, I mean, I wish he owned it a little bit more, but he owned it pretty good. I could tell that there was a lot of guilt and remorse there as he was talking. And if he got into coaching to pour into young men and help them be the best versions of themselves, if that was his initial goal while getting into coaching, and then having a moment like that on his own personal resume, I'm pretty sure that would be a reflective moment of, you know what? I was doing that, but I didn't know I was doing that like that. I'm pretty sure he gave him praise over there and, over there, but it was probably more or less scolding. And now I think the whole Fitzpatrick thing makes sense now. The whole Fitzmagic thing makes sense because I think with Flores, I think he was in a position, just personally, I think Flores was in a position where, the irony of it all, but he was in a position where he wanted to keep his job. I think he knew Tua was good, but there was a lot of skepticism, at least from the hip injury and stuff like that when he first got there. And I don't think that he wanted Tua to be the guy to keep his job. So I think he was leaning more on the elder, the guy with more experience that can get us over the hump because the defense is going to do all the work. I think that was more or less his philosophy. And for all intents and purposes, on top of that, I really don't think he really believed in Tua too, to be honest. And so what were the reasons why he didn't believe? Don't know. But I think that Flores was in a position where I think it was job security thing, to be honest. But the ironic part about it is he was sharting on Tua so much that he lost his job because of it. Well, you didn't draft him, so the people that drafted him want him on the field. So you trying to get wins by having a more experienced person out there isn't what the ownership wanted. They wanted somebody that's going to sell jerseys. So I think for Flores, because I have a mixed bag about the guy. I feel as though that he was a hell of a defensive mind for us when he was coaching. So I have a soft spot for him on that because I think he can coach well. But I think this was a learning experience for him as a coach. Leadership. There's different types of leadership, different forms of leadership. There's books on leadership and various techniques and ways you can do it. So long as you get to your end goal, however your leadership fashion may be, so long as you get to your end goal, then, you're doing something right, I would say. And the leadership form of him scolding Tua to the point to where he started to actually believe that, hey, man, maybe I'm not cut out for the league. Yeah, that sucks, man. Because that's like a kid that never actualized their potential because some teacher wanted to tell them some crazy stuff in third grade. So yeah, it's not cool. And I think Flores is a good dude enough to go, hey man, I was in the wrong there, and hopefully he's learned to be better for that. And coaching offensive players and defensive players is a two universes. I think this guy's a defensive coordinator. I think you can tear into those guys a little bit more. And I think that's more or less he brought his hard edged, let's get things done mentality to the quarterback room. And that may not be the place to do that, especially for these young guys who grew up in a different era than him. But what are your thoughts, man, on Sir Flores, owning up, I guess, to the comments made by Tua?
Yeah, he tried to bring that Bill Belichick coaching style to the Dolphins, and it just didn't work out. So the story essentially goes that Brian Flores wanted to draft Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
The owner wanted to draft Tua.
Mm-hmm.
The owner is I almost said slave master. The owner is the owner. So ultimately, the owner gets his way, and so the team ended up drafting Tua and not Justin Herbert. That's where it all started. So when you say you don't think he believed in Tua, I believe that was the crux of the issue. Because he preferred a different quarterback, he never liked Tua to begin with because he would have rather had another quarterback. That being said, if that's who your team drafts, no matter what, you gotta be all in with that guy,
right?
And your reluctance to do that shows a lack of maturity for you as a coach, in my opinion.
I agree.
So Flores is going to have to eat that because you have to be mature enough to rise above that and coach with the hand you've been dealt. His inability to do that was a failure on his part. So from that standpoint, I'm with Tua. And I have personal experience with something like this. I worked for over 10 years for a restaurant franchise. I'm not going to say the name of it, but they are a big barbecue franchise located throughout Northwest Florida and Central Florida. Anybody that should give you enough hints to figure out which place I'm talking about.
Sizzler.
Yeah. And at one point, the particular store that I worked out of moved locations, and it was a big deal because it was the first location of its kind where the stores look a particular way both inside and outside. This was going to be the first of its kind that had a new architecture to it. The inside, it was going to be the first of its kind to have a bar, the first of its kind to have a TV bar set up and all of that. It was a big deal because it was the first location of any franchise within that entire company that was going to be this kind of way. So it was a big deal. Because it was such a big deal, the owner of the franchise decided to have a more hands-on involvement in the daily, in the daily goings on of the business. So all of a sudden, he went from being an out of sight, out of mind owner who cuts the checks to being this micromanager who's always there every day directing people on how to work. And he didn't do it in a positive, constructive kind of way. He did it in a negative, chastising kind of way, where the only time you heard him say anything, it was to scold you on what you weren't doing right. Now, the store broke all kinds of records, not because it was running functionally, but because it was such a popular thing in that area. People just kept flocking to it because it was the new shiny restaurant. So this place was already popular, but because it was a new building and it was new on the outside and the inside, and it had a bar and they were doing all of these new things, it created a different kind of buzz and it magnified it. So it was just breaking records locally of people just patronizing the business, but it wasn't being run functionally. It was chaotic every day. And in my opinion, part of the reason why it was so chaotic was because all of the employees were working on eggshells because this dude was running around micromanaging everybody. being a glorified general manager when he was supposed to be an owner. Get the hell out of the way and let your general manager and your assistant managers run the place. You're not helping running around scolding your assistants on everything that the employees are doing wrong. And anytime that you communicate directly to the employees, it's just tell them what they're doing wrong. So the performances of everybody who worked in there declined. And the place started to really run in a dysfunctional manner, despite the money it was making. It was a paradox of a situation to be involved in because it was making a lot of money, but everybody was miserable. It was a very weird dynamic to be a part of. But I say that to say that I have firsthand experience being in that kind of environment. I don't mind being hard coached, but it has to be constructive.
Right.
You can't just be hating on me because you just mad and you don't like the fact that I exist. Like, you can't just be hating on the fact that I exist on the roster.
Right.
You need to be constructive.
Right.
And by the looks of it, based on what Tua is saying, it seems as though Flores was just being a hater. And he wasn't even trying to be constructive. He just didn't like the guy because he existed on the roster, in large part because he wanted Justin Herbert. And those types of environments, no one can thrive in that. No one can thrive in those. You're set up to fail. Your job performance is going to suffer. Your confidence is going to suffer. You're going to make mistakes. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy because the mistakes that you're complaining about are going to be mistakes that your people make because they're so petrified of making mistakes.
Yep.
And I feel like that's the kind of situation that Tua found himself in, unwillfully. So I think for all parties involved, it looks like Flores is in a better spot, and I agree with you. It seems as though he's better as a coordinator as opposed to being a head coach. So I'm with you on that. And I'm also glad that Tua is happier and doing well. So for all parties involved, it looks like the outcome was the outcome that needed to take place. I don't know that means that we're set up for Super Bowl contention, because I still think that Tua is a tier below that. But from the standpoint of his happiness and progression as an individual player, I'm glad to see that he's thriving and no longer in a powder keg of that nature.
Yeah. And well said, bro. And I forgot about the whole Justin Herbert thing. But still, I think that he didn't. It's probably a combination of both, that he didn't like the guy, but he also didn't believe in him so much that he thought that Fitzpatrick was better. I really think he thought Fitzpatrick was better. Like, right now, this dude's better than you, dude. So I'm going to put the guy out there that's better than you. And, one can argue that, when Tua's a rookie, green, of course, Fitzpatrick is better. And I think that he leaned more into that and too aggressively. And that was a good word that you brought up too, is maturity there. And, to me, that came off like a parent that was parenting way too hard and then had to hear a lesson later going, damn, man, I ain't, you know what I'm saying? I didn't know I was doing that to Junior. And it's like, yeah, dude, you know what I'm saying? That's probably what motivates you in the morning. But, telling the guy that you can't get this done, over and over. Yeah. At some point he's going to believe it. And just like Tua said, man, it could be the president of the United States. Because I done told Joe Biden that you can't find your pants and you should drop out of the race. So not only could he not find his pants, he also dropped out of the race. So people do believe things, guys. Power in words. So with that being said, go Tua. And let's get us a championship, man. Let's get us the Super Bowl. One thing that we do need is a stout defense. So we'll see how that works. But the correlation normally goes, it's kind of like, you can't really have it all. There's a woman out there, and she's real voluptuous in the back there. But then when you look up top, it's not enough action. Or if there's like, she's got it all going up top, it's probably not enough going on in the back door, and so one of those things, man, if you have yourself a banging offense, you're most likely not going to have a good defense either. It's just a trade-off. And McDaniels comes off as a guy that doesn't. We would need a Flores type person to run defense, like just a straight asshole, and just over there running the defense so they can be goblins. But if they're taking on the identity of Flowers and everything is love, like McDaniels does, our defense may not be stout enough to get the job done. So hopefully we got a good enough defense this year that can get us over the hump, man. Because now we are in Super Bowl territory. And if we don't at least get there, it was a failure of a season, I would say.
Hopefully the roster is there, but we'll see.
It's there.
We'll see. Yeah. The cold weather stuff and the record against winning teams, playoff teams, those are challenges that they're going to have to prove the doubters wrong with those things, I would say. But we'll see. Overall, I'm just glad that there's nothing, you cannot put a price on peace of mind in your professional space. No one, I don't care who you are, but working on eggshells, you're never going to perform to the best of your ability if you're constantly working in an environment where you're always in fear of what you're going to do wrong. So the fact that he is freed from that by all appearances, I'm glad for that. So I'm glad for Tua in that way. So shouts out to Tua. And of course, shouts out to the Dolphins, man, because we are a Miami Dolphins friendly channel over here on this side. And shouts out to my man, Dan Lebatard, too. I think him and Cal Hurd, to me, are the guys who I enjoy listening to talk about sports the most. So shouts out to Lebatard out there. But on that note, we are going to head and close things out, man. This was a great stream, a lot of interesting topics. Interested to see what the people are going to have to say on these videos as they come cranking out. Check us out on Instagram at ConApproach, ConApproach. I as well. I'm on Instagram at JVWins, JVWINS. Conscious Approach will be available in individual episodes on your podcast platforms in short order, so be on the lookout for that. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, leave a comment. Let us know what you think about the commentary in this or any other video. And until next time, people, always think for yourself, and we'll catch you on the next video.
Yeah. And the name is Dogon SS. And you can find me on Instagram at Dogon_SS and on YouTube and TikTok at Dogon_SS. I'm posting videos in both locations. Lord have mercy. And so, like I say on every pod, guys, don't be too hot. Don't be too low. Keep it calm. Keep it chill. Keep it real. And don't let anybody get you off your pivot. So until the next time, my people, we'll catch y'all on the flip side.
That's right. We are out of there. Oh, and I'm waiting on that Tyreek Hill, Noah Lyles race too. Y'all got to make that happen. Make that happen, man. I want to see Tyreek smoke that boy. That would be hilarious.
And keep it limited to 50 yards. And Tyreek got him. Tyreek got him. I'm going Tyreek.
We go, man. Until the next stream, we are out. We'll see y'all later. Peace.
You already know what time it is. Go Pirates.